So I would like to give a very warm welcome to everyone. It's lovely to have you all here. Thank you very much for joining us. I also see a lot of familiar faces. So if you are familiar with Kesher, we are very happy that you chose to spend another hour and a half with us. And if it's the first time you are joining one of our talks, then we are also very happy that you could make it today. My name is Dora. I'm one of the organizers of Kesher. This is an initiative that we started 4.5 years ago, and our aim is to introduce Jewish communities from all over the world. We hold about 2 to 3 sessions every week, in which we travel virtually to different cities or countries, Jewish heritage, Jewish history, Jewish culture, and also their present day situation. So this is our main activity, and I know that many of you have been to our online presentations. Today's event is a little bit special because it's not only about a virtual tour, which it will be. So the first about 45-50 minutes of the talk is going to be a virtual tour to the Jewish heritage of the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. And in the second part of the presentation, we hope you can also stay for that. We will share the details of the upcoming trip in June 2025 that we are organizing. So you will have the chance to meet our group leader, Patricia Mizrahi, who is a representative of the Nora Kaplan Learning Trips, another partner of ours, who are going to be organizing the group and the logistics of the trip. She's going to share about the itinerary, about the hotels, about all the details. And of course, Daniel Gurovich, who is our speaker today, and he's from Gerulita, based in Lithuania, an expert in Jewish heritage of the Baltic states. He's also going to be there to answer any questions that you may have. So thank you for joining us for this special event. But first of all, we're now going to learn a little bit about the Jewish heritage of these 3 countries, which together we call the Baltic states. So I'm going to pass the word to Daniel to guide us through. And if there are any questions, please put them in the chat and we will try to answer at least a few of them after his presentation. So Daniel, go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me and thank you for cooperation and collaboration. It's already several years. I have an honor to be on these talks and now this another initiative to organize a tour together. So this talk is actually is kind of a challenge for me because in quite a short period of time I have to squeeze a lot of Jewish history about the 3 countries. Though the countries are not very big, but still there is a lot to say. So I will use the PowerPoint presentation for that. Just a second. I would like to start not from the Baltic states, but to say a few words about European Jewish history. And actually, I will not dive into the first millennium, but I will stick to the second one as this history is closer to us and actually more understandable. So I've decided to give a little background and to include 2 maps. So you can see 2 similar maps. One is persecution and expulsion of Jews in Europe in the medieval ages. And you can see the areas which are marked from which areas Jews were expelled. And the map below actually shows with arrows the migration of Jews. So actually the migration of Jews is going from the west east, actually. If we take a broader picture, we can imagine that the Jews at some point migrated to the north from the Holy Land and found themselves in the Roman Empire and later on in the rest of Europe. And actually, in the second millennium, Europe became infamously known for persecutions, anti-Semitism, religious and social one. And that's how, step by step, Jews migrated to the Polish lands and later on to the land of Lithuania, and later on to Latvia, and later on to Estonia, to a less extent to the Russian lands, but there was also a Jewish community as well. So the history of Lithuanian Jews actually is related to the history of Jews in Europe. So I think that it's kind of a good background to start the presentation. So the early presence of Jews in the Baltic states is actually, it's not the same for each Baltic country. In Lithuania, there were Jews in 13th century, early 14th century. The first Jewish communities were mentioned there. In Latvia and Estonia a little bit later. And actually, another important thing to mention from like a general history of why the choice to the Baltics, or we refer to the Baltic states in such a way, is actually a relatively new thing, because these three republics separated from the Soviet Union together. But and historically there was not so much connection between these countries. They are not cousins, brothers and sisters. They have quite different history. And the history of Jews in this country is, on one hand, is very similar. On the other hand, has a lot of differences. So speaking of Lithuania, so I start with the three pictures of the Grand Dukes of Lithuania. The one in the center, the Grand Duke Gediminas, he was the one who invited foreigners to settle in Lithuania in the 14th century. And he had no idea who the Jews were. He invited foreigners, not Jews specifically, but Jews were part of the ethnic groups who came to Lithuania at that time. So his grandson to the right, Grand Duke Vytautas, he was the one who already knew about the Jews and Lithuania in his privileges. In 1388, it's a first written document which we have, that there were Jews in Lithuania. They lived in separate communities. And it's interesting that his charter mentions in a little annex that it's not allowed to damage Jewish cemeteries, and those who would be caught by doing so will be punished by a fine. If they will be caught for the second time, they will be imprisoned. So this little annex gives us a lot of information about relations, about some controversies, anti-Semitism, and things like that. So the guy, the lower picture, this is another Grand Duke of Lithuania. He was the one who expelled the Jews from Lithuania in 1495, 3 years after the infamous expulsion from Spain. Jews were expelled from Lithuania for a short period of time. Well, at that time, they didn't know for how long they will be expelled, but it was for 6 years. 6 years after the expulsion, the same guy, Alexander Jagiellonchik, allowed them to settle back in Lithuania. And actually, by that, I will finish the period of the Grand Dukes of Lithuania, of the dynasties. And I would like to mention that actually that these 2 centuries, 14th and 15th centuries, were relatively peaceful for local Jews. besides the expulsion in 1495. And 16th century, in the 16th century, a lot of changes happened in Eastern Europe, and the major event is the Lublin Union, the agreement which was signed in the Polish city Lublin, and this agreement merged Lithuania and Poland into Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. So these two countries became one country. Here I chose a picture of Jan Matejko. On that picture, you can see the gathering and assembly to sign the contract, and you see the character in the lower left part of the picture is a Jew, and he actually symbolizes the presence of Jewish communities in Polish-Lithuanian lands. So the period of Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and this is the map of the two countries. You see the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, and the area in white, not in gray. It's the territory of Poland. Part of it today is in Ukraine, but at that time it was Polish territory. So in these two countries, there was a cultural autonomy for the Jews. That's why this slide is called the Golden Age of Lithuanian Jewry. Well, if I would speak about Poland, it would be the Golden Age of Polish Jewry. So this cultural autonomy was almost state within a state. So Jews had the self-government right. They had their own educational system with the yeshivas, heders, school, other kinds of schools. They had their own courts. They had their own communities, and the parliament, which was called kahal, from Hebrew, the community. And actually, if they would have army, it would be like a full state. Of course, they didn't have their own army, but the community was very, many communities were very strong and developed, and this actually led foundation to the development of the East European Jewry. From a religious perspective, we speak about Ashkenazi Jewish tradition. And it's interesting that after the expulsion from Spain, some Jews migrated so far east, and they reached Poland and Lithuania. And on the way, they actually transformed from being Sephardi Jews to become an Ashkenazi Jews speaking certain dialect of Yiddish language. So, and this is briefly the history of the development of Jewish communities in Poland and in Lithuania. So this Commonwealth of Two Nations existed for over 200 years, and this cultural autonomy also existed for almost 200 years, which is a big chunk of history of the Jews of these territories. The Commonwealth stopped existing by partitions. Partitions were done by three empires, the Austro-Hungarian, Prussian, and Russian empires, and Russia took over half of the territory, including entire territory of Lithuania and a major part of Belarus, which also was actually at that time was conquered by Lithuania as well. Now, in the 18th century, it's a period of flourishing of Jewish community. And here I show you the print screen from the internet, faces of Eliyahu ben Shlomo Zalman Kremer, who is better known as the Vilna Gaon. There are several faces, there are several drawings of Vilna Gaon. Of course, at that time, he was born in 1720 and became a famous scholar and a rabbi and a Kabbalist. So you can see the black and white picture at the top, which is a picture of the old Jewish cemetery in Vilnius, which unfortunately didn't survive the Russian attempts to change and to destroy. And here and on the picture you can see the crypt of the Vilna Gaon. This crypt was reconstructed and on the new cemetery, and Vilna Gaon was reburied to the new cemetery, which is still in use in Vilnius on the outskirts of the city. So Vilna Gaon actually symbolizes not only the Bible studies, Torah studies in Eastern Europe. He also symbolizes the epoch, and actually his tribute to Judaism is absolutely outstanding. He introduced a new way of Torah studies. He wrote little notes from which his disciples wrote numerous books and as commentaries to the Talmud, and so on and so forth. And of course, his famous opposition against Hasidim, Hasidic Jews. Hasidism evolved at the same time. Rabbi Baal Shem Tov, he was born not far from Vilnius, like 200 kilometers south from here. Today it's in Belarus, in a small town of Lade. So these two leaders, Baal Shem Tov and Vilna Gaon, they actually were on the two poles of Jewish religious world of Eastern Europe, representing each of them. The Vilna Gaon represented mitnagdim, or opponents, and Baal Shem Tov represented Hasidic Jews. So this actually was a foundation for Vilna and Lithuania to become a center of the Jewish religious life and the Jewish world. Moving to the end of the 18th century, early 19th century, Enlightenment movement visited Lithuania, and there were a lot of followers of Askala, and later on, by the end of the 19th century, Vilna and Vilnius and many other Lithuanian cities were already well known for modern Jewish communities, and later on politics and Zionism and things like that. I do not have a special slide about the 19th century, because 19th century is a Russian period, and it's actually quite a long and complicated theme to dive in. Briefly, 19th century under the Russian rule, it was a struggle for survival and saving the identity, because Russians, they tried to change everybody in the conquered territories, and the Jews were no exception. So 19th century is I can define it as the beginning of the end, because what was built for centuries by the Jews was destroyed, starting the changes which Russians started and finishing with the Holocaust by Nazis in 1941, 1943. On this slide, you can see the picture of active Vilnius synagogue with the blue dome. And the same picture actually shows you a part of the panoramic view of Vilnius Old City. You can see Max Lilienthal as a representative of Jewish Enlightenment movement, and you can see a picture of one of the Jewish schools, which is already well, it's a school in Hebrew. You can see that there is Hebrew language on the writing on the school board. So 20th century Lithuania, there was a very big Jewish community in Vilnius. Vilnius was half Jewish at that time. Then the First World War started in 1914, and it actually changed quite a lot. After, well, there was no Holocaust in the First World War, but many Jewish communities, including quite a big part of Vilnius Jewish community, they were expelled from their homes, and they had to migrate about 300, 400 kilometers to the east. That was a military decision by Russian generals. After the First World War, Lithuania became an independent country. Vilnius was conquered by Poland. Well, these are already like small details, but let's say in general, Lithuania was independent from 1920 till 1940, till the first Soviet occupation. And the Jewish community again enjoyed cultural autonomy in a newborn democratic Lithuania. And together with that, there were a lot of tensions with local people, and as Jews controlled a lot of industry and commerce, there was a well-known Lithuanian slogan that Lithuania should be Lithuania. So a lot of controversy, a lot of paradoxes were at that time. In numbers, when Jews were half of Vilnius population, there were 100,000 out of 200,000 people. Now, in order not to give Lithuania the whole time on this presentation, I kind of jump back to the Jews of Latvia chapter, and we find ourselves in the 17th century, when the first Jews come to Latvia. And now the difference between Latvian Jews and Lithuanian Jews, in Latvia, there were some Jews who migrated from Lithuania, but there also were Jews who came from Germany. So in Latvia, there is, well, and also from Russia. Latvia as a country is actually divided into into four regions. In German language, it's Kurland, the western part, Livland, the central part, and Lapland, the eastern part. And Latvia as a country, it's important to mention, it was conquered by German knights for 300 years, starting from early 12th century. And that's why there is a lot of German culture and influence of German language to Latvian language, and also to Yiddish language of Latvian Jews. So in the 16th century, there were very few Jews in Latvia, mostly in the territories which were close to Lithuania. In the 17th, 18th centuries, there were Jews in big cities, in Dvinsk, Daugavpils, in Libau, Liepāja, in Riga, of course. And most of Latvia was outside the Pale. I will show you the Pale on one of the next slides. And that's why there were, if we compare the size of numbers of Jews in Latvia and Lithuania, in Latvia there were less Jews, much less Jews than in Lithuania. In the 19th century, in these parts where Jews were allowed to stay in Latvia, like southern Latvia, they actually were quite active in their religious life and in commerce and education. The major difference would be that if Lithuania is actually the land of shtetls, Jewish towns, in Latvia, Jews mostly live in bigger cities, and only in a small part of Latvia there still was a shtetl culture. Here on the central picture, on the lower picture, you can see it's a postcard. This building doesn't exist today. It's a great synagogue of Riga, which was built in early 1870s and was destroyed during the Second World War. When it was part of the ghetto, there was a terrible pogrom, and they burned down almost all synagogues in Riga. Yeah, here is the slide with the Pale. So Pale of settlement is Russian invention. They conquered the territories which are like in the center of the map. They conquered them by the third partition of Poland-Lithuania in 1795. And they decided that this huge territory, which includes current countries, Lithuania, Belarus, part of Poland, and almost entire Ukraine, they decided that it will be the Pale, the area where Jews were allowed to settle. So, and you see that Riga is above the northern border of the Pale. You can see Lithuania, Kovno, Kovno gubernia or Kovno county, Vilna and Vilna county, Vitebsk, and above Vitebsk there is Livonia, which is central part of Latvia, and you see Kurland, which I've already mentioned. So for over 120 years, Jews were not allowed to freely cross the Black border and to go to the bigger cities of like Moscow, St. Petersburg, and other places. It's interesting that if they had money and could pay a protection fee, it was permitted, and they could settle in this well, outside the Pale of settlement. Jews in Estonia. And here I would like to tell a story. Not a history. I will tell a history through telling a story. In 1835 or 1834, 1835, in a town of Pernu, which is on the Baltic coast in the central Estonia, there were 4 Jews. How they got there? So the story goes back to the times of Tsar Nicholas I, Russian Tsar, who decided to change the army conscription law in the Russian Empire, and also to recruit to recruit the Jews who were an exception from the general law for many years. So he changed that in 1827, and Jews were recruited as everybody else for 25 years. And this idea was actually for not only having more soldiers in the army, but actually influencing the Jewish community and changing the Jews by taking them away from their homes, by forcing them to convert to Christianity, by not allowing them keeping their traditions, keeping their religious books, celebrating holidays, having kosher food, and so on and so forth. So the story of Cantonists, Cantoni, these are names for Russian schools, Russian military schools in the Russian Empire, or another name for these soldiers are Nikolai's soldiers, because Nikolai the first, he was the one who changed the law. So to all these terrible stories of forced conversion and anti-Semitism in the Russian army, actually there were also some positive things. For example, people who survived the period and finished the army service of 25 years, they were granted certain privileges, and also a certain sum of money, which was equal to the annual turnover of the merchant of the third guild. In Russian Empire, the economic system, people were divided, merchants belonged to guilds. The first guild was the richest, the second one, and the third one. So the third one, to be a merchant of a third guild, actually meant to have quite a decent life. So Jews suddenly, well, Jews who served in the army, finished the army service and got these privileges, they felt quite comfortable in the Russian Empire, and many of them decided to settle in the western part of Russian Empire, and many of them went to what we call today Baltic states, at that time northwestern region of Russian Empire. Besides the financial gift, they also could choose a piece of land, and these four friends who settled in Pernu in 1834-35, they actually were the four Jews, four Cantonists, who finished the army service, so they established they started four hotels in Pernu. Pernu at that time only started to transform from being a seaport to become a spa resort, which is now still a spa resort. And actually, this was the beginning of the Jewish community in Pernu. By the end of the 19th century, there were close to 700 Jews in this Estonian town. The total number of Jews in Estonia in the peak of number of Jews in Estonia in the 20th century is a little over 4,500. So in the 20th century, well, again, it's the same as in the other Baltic republics. In 1918, 1920, each of them was paving its way to become an independent state, and they were independent, and later on, all of them together were conquered by Soviet Union. In Estonia, in the between two world wars period, there was also cultural autonomy law for national minorities, but the criteria was that a group can be considered as a national minority if they were at least 3,000 people. So, and in Estonia, there were less Jews than 3,000. And in 1926, they were 3,007, and they got minority rights, and community increased up to 4,500 by the eve of the Second World War. And of course, this development was followed by development of Jewish schools, Jewish political organizations, like Beitar, like Zionist organizations, and involvement of schools, construction of synagogues, and things like that. The picture here on the slide is a modern picture, is a modern building of the Jewish community of Estonia, which is next to the Jewish school. In 2007, yeah, this is the yellow building on the upper picture, the yellowish building on the right, is the same Jewish community, and this modern building is a synagogue which was built in 2007, and it's the only synagogue in Tallinn. It's modern building, and you can see the picture of a rabbi here on the bottom of the slide. So there is a small Jewish community in Estonia today. They are a little bit over 1,800 people. Most of them live in Tallinn. Some of them are in Tartu, the university city, in Viljandi, in some other places of Estonia. And of course, Tallinn is as a capital is the biggest community, and the community is actually quite active. They have a school, they have a community center, and a museum, and a lot of cultural events, and so on. Now, I didn't refer to the Holocaust yet, and of course it's an important theme to mention. So before we get into, we say a few words about the Holocaust. Statistics, Jewish population, well, it's a print screen from Wikipedia. You can see Lithuania in 1933, 155,000 Jews, and they were 7.6% of total population. Now, at that time, 1933, Lithuania part of Lithuania was conquered by Poland, and about 100,000 Vilnius and Vilnius County was conquered by Poland. So part of the 3 million, which are at the first line in Poland, they were 100,000 out of the 3 million, they were Lithuanian Jews in Vilna County. So altogether in Lithuania, the eve of the Second World War, there were almost 250,000 Jews. In Latvia, you see it's 95,000, and in Estonia, the last line of this slide is 4,500 and 0.4% of the population in 1933. Deaths during the Holocaust, interesting statistics, terrible statistics. You can see Lithuania, out of the 150,000, 145 were perished during the Holocaust. I also marked with a little V Latvia for you. The percentage of annihilation is a little lower than in Lithuania, but still it's very high. And Estonia. Now in Estonia, only 1,000 Jews were killed, and the difference is next. Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia actually are, Lithuania is on the south, Latvia is in the center, and Estonia is on the north of the Baltic states. The German army went through Lithuania mostly, a little bit Latvia was touched, and Estonia was a little island above the army path to the east. And the Nazis got into Estonia a few months later. And actually this allowed Estonian people, not only Jews, also non-Jews, to have some time to evacuate and to run away deeper east into Russia or other Soviet Union republics. And actually Jews of Estonia took advantage and they ran away. And under 1,000 Estonian Jews remained in Estonia. And of course, unfortunately, they were perished as part of these 1,000 Jews. And also there was a massacre of Jews who were transferred to Estonia from other places like Lithuania and some other European countries. So, and of course, it's important to mention about the role of the local collaborators in all three republics, which was very efficient, and this caused a big success of Nazis in purifying the world from the subhumans. So modern, I didn't prepare any slides about that. Modern current Jewish communities in each country. In Lithuania, there are about 4,500 Jews, maybe a little less. In Latvia, a little bit more. It's over actually it's over 6,000 already. And interestingly, that the Jewish community of Latvia grew in recent years, and in Estonia, as I've already mentioned, it's 1,800, a little less than 2,000 people. And yeah, all these communities, they are quite active, of course, to their own scale. But yeah, there is Jewish life, and there are Jewish schools and Jewish organizations, and so on and so forth, and also some Jewish guides as well.
Thank you very much, Daniel. You did the impossible job of introducing three very, very rich Jewish heritage and history in such short time. I want to let everyone know that now, first of all, we will have a few minutes for questions. So I will check the chat. If anyone would like to ask, please feel free. Those of you who want to learn with Daniel more in depth about these countries' Jewish heritage, we will have virtual tours more in detail. So in December, Daniel will do a full 90-minute talk about the Jewish heritage of Vilnius, and after that he will speak about, in another session, about 3 other cities, among them Kovno, Kaunas, and 2 more. So those of you who would like to do a bit of virtual traveling, you can also join then, and he will also do a talk about the Jews of Estonia in January. So you will have the chance to join these sessions and learn more in detail. Today, we will focus, of course, on telling you about our real-life trip planned in June 2025. And I'm just going to check if there are any questions. There were some comments and questions about if you need to register for the synagogue to enter, or is it easy to enter, or difficult, or is there any anti-Semitism that would make it more difficult in terms of security. Of course, when you travel with a group, there will be no such issues. But if you want to address this in any way, Daniel, then please feel free.
So, of course, especially in recent times, we became very security conscious, and when I say we, maybe it sounds like a Lithuanian Jewish community, but actually speaking about all the 3 countries, we invested a lot into improving security, and the synagogues are locked, but it's possible to visit. Of course, there are guards who. It's not like in big European cities, but still they check what you have when you enter, and you don't have to register, but you have to know hours when the synagogues are open for visitors.
Thank you. Is there a source for finding Jewish surnames from Latvia, or you can also speak about the other countries, or in general genealogy research in these areas, if you want to say a few words about that?
Well, first of all, you can check on Jewish Gen, because a lot of records are if not all the records, are uploaded to Jewish Gen, and you can get access to these registries. And on Jewish Gen, you can find the number of files in the local archives, and in the local archives, you can request the documents and get, for example, birth certificate of your ancestors, or find about other ancestors. So there are central historical archives in each of the Baltic capitals, Vilnius, Riga, and Tallinn, and they have these records.
Thank you. And I will read 2 more questions, or I will combine them into one, but it's actually 2 questions. And after that, we will start with the second part of the presentation. So if you can speak just a little bit about the migration to the USA in the early 20th century from the Baltic states, and also what was the Jewish population in Lithuania and Latvia around this time, before these big migrations started to the US and South Africa and other areas?
Yes, so the big migration, I call it the big exodus of Jews from Russian Empire, was actually caused by official anti-Semitism and pogroms, which started in Russia after the assassination of Tsar Alexander II. Each time when I think about the Tsar, I have not to confuse Alexander and Nicholas. So from 1882, in 30 years, 60% of Russian Jewry left Eastern Europe. And in numbers, it's 2.7 million Jews left, and 2 million found themselves in the United States, and 700,000 in other countries. A lot of Jews from Lithuania went to South Africa. A lot of Jews from Latvia went to Australia. And where did Estonian Jews go? I don't really know, but probably they joined the major flows. So this is one of the questions. Another question: number of Jews at that time. So the total population, total Jewish population of Russian Empire at that time, at the end of the 19th century. At the peak, were 5.2 million people, which is half of world's Jewry at that time. And if we narrow down to Lithuania, it has to be somewhere close to, including Vilna County, it has to be close to 200,000 people. Latvia, end of the 19th century, early 20th century, they were about 70, no, it's more, it should be more, it should be over 100,000 people. I don't remember the exact number. And Estonia at that time was about 2,000.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for the questions. Unfortunately, we won't have time to get to all of them, but I do encourage you to sign up to the talks that we will have in December and January. And now I'm going to pass the word to Patricia Mizrahi, who is the representative of Nora Kaplan Learning Trips. She's going to be the group leader in our trip to the Baltic states in June 2025. And now she's going to share with you some details about this upcoming trip.
Thanks, Dora, and hi everyone. I'm Patricia. I'm actually based in Spain right now. I'm sharing my screen. I don't know if you can see it. Dora, it's okay? Perfect.
Yes.
So, as Dora mentioned, we are organizing this real trip to the Baltic tours. We're organizing in partnership with Kesher and also Generita Travel with Daniel. So for the next year in June in 2025, we're going to visit the 3 countries, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, in a trip of 11 days and 10 nights, exploring, as you can see, we're going to travel across different cities as Vilnius, Trakai, Klaipėda, Riga, and Tallinn. Because I cannot see it. Yes? Okay. So, who are we? What Nora Kaplan Learning Trips? We are a family business. Actually, we are based in Spain, but we are originally from Venezuela and Argentina. Actually, Nora Kaplan is my mom. I think she's connected also in this in this talk. And we partner with Sebastian and Dora from Kesher. Sebastian is my brother, Dora is my sister-in-law. So we partnered with them to organize these Jewish history tours in Europe. We already had 3 trips to Spain. And actually, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have the next one. And we are launching also with Daniel, who is a speaker from Kesher, and he owned the Generita Travel agency, expert in this area of Europe in history, in Jewish heritage in this area, to organize this trip. We run small groups, 50 plus. So the idea is that the pace of the trip, it's very well designed for seniors. It's not for young people. It's more like for seniors. We stayed in boutique hotels. We have almost every meal. We have tours with guides, but also we have free time, so you can explore a little bit the different places. And I'm gonna go through a little bit on the itinerary. We built this itinerary with Daniel, so at the end you can ask all the questions that you have. I think there was one question before, so we can answer at the end of this talk. But the idea is to start, as I said, from June 5th to June 15th. So the first day just arrival, and then the second day it's Friday. We're gonna stay in Vilnius. We're gonna visit the city. We're gonna look for the Jewish quarter. We're gonna have a Kabbalat Shabbat, the dinner all together. The next day on Saturday, no bus. I mean, we're gonna take any bus or everything. We're gonna do is a walking tour. We're gonna visit specifically in this time the Jewish history of the city. and we're gonna have some time in the Jewish State Museum, so you can go through it and look on your own pace. Then, well, we have some optional activities that we will offer you different optional activities that you can do on the free times. Of course, we're not give you all this information just few months before the trip. We are gonna stay, as I said, in 4-star hotels, very comfortable with all the amenities, and so we're gonna sleep well and rest well because we're gonna walk a lot and be almost all day outside. But the idea is that we're gonna be in good places. Next day, on Sunday, we're gonna start traveling. We're gonna do Vilnius, Trakai, and Kaunas. We're gonna stay in Kaunas, but on the route, we're gonna stop in Trakai. Well, we're gonna visit some lakes and forest, and one in Kaunas. We're gonna visit the old town, and we will end the day in the Slobodka. I don't know if my pronunciation it's well. Okay. And visit some part of the yeshiva, and then 9/4, which is a commemoration site. And so we're gonna visit, and well, all the tour will be guided by tourist guide from Gerulita Travel, and also will be accompanied by me in this case, in part of a group as a group leader. So you're gonna be all the time. We're gonna be together, no, all the time, and well guided. On Monday, we're gonna travel Kaunas and Klaipėda. We're gonna stop on the route, and then we're gonna arrive in Klaipėda. We're gonna stroll on the old town. We're gonna see a little bit of the history of the town. I'm gonna visit the city and also have like a free time there. These are the hotels we're gonna stay. We try to stay at least 2 nights in each hotel. This time, because we're gonna be traveling, we're gonna just stop 1 night in these 2 hotels, and then we're gonna spend 2 nights in the rest. You have all this information of the hotels and the links in our website. On Tuesday, the 6th day, we're gonna do Klaipėda, Šiauliai, and Riga. We're gonna end it in Riga. We're gonna stop at the Hill of Crosses. And it's a very, as Daniel mentioned, there are very different places in the route where all the resistance and monuments and stuff of the wars, and we're gonna stop and see. We're gonna have a mix of the history of the countries and the Jewish history, you know, how both connected. We're gonna visit the Rondon Palace, and then we're gonna arrive in Riga, which actually we're gonna spend 2 days visiting Riga. We're gonna visit the city, but also museums, but also we're gonna visit the Great Synagogue, the ghetto. We're gonna visit also the Rumbula Forest, a place, also a commemorative place for the massacre of the Jews in Latvia. Well, these are the optionals, also activities that we can do on the free times. It's not all the time tours, but we will give you different options. In Riga, we're gonna stay at the Radisson Latvia, and on day 9 and 10, we're gonna travel. Day 9, we're gonna do Riga and Tallinn, and then we're gonna stay in Tallinn. We're gonna drive through all the Baltic Sea coast. We're gonna stop in Parnu, on the way to Tajin. We're gonna spend Kabbalat Shabbat in Tajin, and we're gonna on Saturday we're gonna walk. I mean, have a walking tour of the city, and then the last day in Tajin, it's a breakfast and check out. You can stay after that. You can travel to other places. The idea is that we'll have a mix of guided tour, free time. We will give you other also options that you can do on your free times. I'm gonna go through what this kind of also the optional activities. All this information is on the website. This is the hotel that we're gonna stay in Tajin, and as the entire trip, as I said, we're gonna stay in 4-star hotels. The trip has included 8 group meals, which I think are gonna be almost all meals are dinners, so you will have free time to have lunch on your own in each city. As I said, we will offer a list of different suggestions that you can do on your free time. And as this is a Jewish tour, we try at least, we are not able to offer kosher food, but it will be like a kosher style. Okay, so we will have vegetarian options, non-kosher food. Also, Kabbalat Shabbat, as I said, we're gonna celebrate Kabbalat Shabbat together as a group, and then we will have no taxis, bus, or anything that the transportation on Shabbat. We're gonna try to walking tours. This is, as I said, this is more like cultural Jewish tour. If you're okay with that, amazing. We have done this also here in Spain, and so far it has been a really great experience for here. The price of the tour. So we have our early bird for until February 5th, which is in euros, 3,016. So I think today it's around $3,900. And after February 5th, we have a full price, which is 3,950 euros, which is $4,300. A single supplement, because this trip is planned, or the price is planned on double occupancy of the rooms. What it's included, which is important, the accommodation every night, the touring, we're gonna be in air-conditioned coach bus, private for us. We have 8 meals, including Shabbat dinners. We have entrance fees for all the museums and activities that are in the itinerary. Experience and a tour guide English speaking. We're gonna do all the tours in English speaking, and we're gonna from Jerita Travel, and also someone from Nora Kaplan Learning Trips, which in this case it's gonna be myself. We have also another group leader, which is Alexis. She's based in Seattle. She couldn't join us today, but she's actually very involved in this trip, and also in the Spain trip. So what it's not included, which is important also to mention, it's the international airfare from wherever you are based to Lithuania and return from Estonia, or if you want to travel more. Travel and health insurance, ground transportation from the airport to the airport, optional activities, personal extras, tips, also for hotels, taxis, drivers. So we have this contact. Also, it's on you can also write us on our website, or you can write to the Kesher website, and we can answer you all the questions that you have. This is Alexis, who is in charge of American and Canada, North American, Canada interest people. Well, actually everyone. And this is her email, her phone number. This is our website. And I don't know if you have any questions. I know that I went very quickly, but you can ask us all the questions that you have regarding logistic, regarding itinerary, registration, and all of that.
Thank you very much, Patricia. So I'm going to read questions that came in, and you or Danielle can answer. So there was a question: how much of the trip focuses on death parks and camps and like memorials of these very sad events? So I don't know. Maybe Danielle, you want to share a little bit of the.
I will answer. So actually, we in Lithuania we visit 2 places. Well, one in Vilnius, one in Kaunas. In Latvia we visit 1 place in Riga, and in Estonia we do not visit any Holocaust sites. Once I was asked by one company to precisely calculate how much of the tour is like horror oriented and how much is not. So it's actually, well, it's not only about Holocaust, and it's not only about the destroyed Jewish cemeteries. There is a lot of general history. The guide will present a general history of each city, of each community. I mean, not Jewish community. I spoke about the Jews today, but the tour for how many, like 8 guided days? What is it? Without the first day and the last day, you will not have only Jews and Jewish history presented. So for those who are sensitive to these topics, well, we do not think that we should avoid speaking about Holocaust, but for sure it is not a Holocaust trip.
Thank you very much. There's a comment that you can also address. In Lithuania, there are still a few wooden synagogues standing, but most in very poor condition in very small towns. Will you be visiting any of these kind of synagogues?
Well, there are good news. First of all, almost all old wooden synagogues are already renovated, and they were turned into cultural centers of these small places. And these synagogues which were not renovated, I think only one is still standing. The rest, unfortunately, already deteriorated and collapsed. We will see one for sure, and maybe 2.
Thank you. Can you repeat the size of the group? How many people do you expect?
Yes, we try to have groups between 15 and 30 as the top. We actually, in Spain, we have traveled with 25, 26, which is a very good size of number. The minimum of people that we need, as I read, it's 12 people. So with 12 people, we have a trip completely secure.
Thank you. Will the participants meet any members of the Jewish communities in the different cities?
Well, we cannot 100% assure that, but we invite people to join the groups. For example, for Shabbat, and if there are some people who are interested, they come. Well, usually some people come, yeah. But when we visit the synagogues, we always meet a rabbi or somebody from the synagogue. When we visit the Jewish museum, well, in all these places there are, well, maybe not all the employees are Jewish, but at least some. So there is interaction with some locals. But we do not have like a special speaker, somebody famous who comes to speak to a group.
Thank you. I see the question from Eileen. We will send out all the information. We can also put now, maybe Patricia, you can put also the website on the chat. But I just want to tell you all that tomorrow you will receive a follow-up email, which will include all the information that we mentioned. So you will have a link to this presentation, the recording of today's session. You will also receive, of course, the link of the itinerary, of the contact page where you can get in touch. We'll also send you the upcoming talks related to the Baltic states and other similar topics. So you will have it in your inbox, hopefully in your inbox tomorrow. And Eileen, I saw your hand up, so if you have further questions, you can also unmute and ask. If not, okay, so
No,
there's
I think there's one question Robert asked. These tours, it's focused on 50 plus people. So it's more for seniors, let's say, no? It's not for young kids. We have families
okay, and also
in this trip in Spain, but it's oriented on that.
So the next question is it relatively easy to ferry from Tallinn across the Gulf of Finlandia to Helsinki at the end of the trip?
Yeah, it's there are ferries like every hour, and it takes about 2 hours to get to Helsinki. It's only 80 kilometers, yeah, it's easy.
Thank you. And there's a question about the accommodations. You spoke about it in the presentation, but I don't know if Daniel, you want to add anything to the question of accommodation?
What's the question?
I think just in general, but
yeah, the hotels are centrally located, good 4-star hotels. What else can I say? We work a lot with them and have groups and individual guests there. So hotels in this part of the world, 4-star hotels are very comfortable. Some of them are actually can be easily treated as like a little bit cheaper 5-star hotels. So it's not like when you go to Turkey, for example, and you have a 5-star hotel, which is like in European understanding like a 3+ star hotel. Now in the Baltic states, the hotel level is very high, I would say. Well, these hotels are not big, rooms are not huge, but as most of the buildings, they are in the old city or close to the old city, but the good level, clean, and also I would like to mention that these countries, even though it's like Eastern Europe, which is officially already for some years, it's considered Northern Europe. This is a United Nations resolution. Every person in the Baltic states is happy that it's finally not Eastern Europe, but actually it's like to travel, well, in Central Europe, maybe not in Western Europe, but in Central Europe. These countries are in, for example, Vilnius is influenced by Italy, by Italian classical and neoclassical architecture. Riga is the city of Art Nouveau. Tallinn is the most medieval city of the Baltic states. And quite often visitors, our clients, tourists, they are surprised that they thought that they will fall into the like Soviet style cities. Well, of course, there is a Soviet part of the city, but the places where we usually go, they're very European, very safe. For example, in Vilnius, there are hundreds of street cameras which assure security of travelers, whether it's during the day or at night. People go out to the bars, to the pubs. in their free time after dinner and enjoy, interaction with local people. So it is comfortable to travel here, and also I would say the quite big advantage, which today it's not trivial in Europe. It's still not over touristic. So you will of course see in June it's already a high season, and you will see tourist groups, and you won't be alone in the museums. But still, these countries are not over touristic. And also the history is diverse, especially for the Jewish groups. We present different angles. We speak about local history, about the Jewish history, culture, heritage, different political aspects, historical aspects. I think everyone will find some interest in and things that ring the bell in our content.
Thank you. Regarding transfer from the airport, is it okay to take a taxi, or is there another way that you recommend?
Yes, it's airport in Vilnius. As you start in Vilnius, airport in Vilnius is located inside the city. Distance between the airport and the old city is about 15 minutes drive to the hotel. The hotel is on the other side of the old city, so it's like maybe 17 minutes drive, and the prices for taxis are affordable, and the drive is short. At the same time, if you prefer, we can arrange a transfer, which is a little bit more expensive as it is a private transfer, but for your convenience, it can be easily arranged.
Thank you. Do these countries accommodate American electronics?
Well, you need the converter.
Thank you. Is it necessary to obtain a visa?
No, you do not need visas to the Baltic states.
Thank you. Someone is mentioning that the days will be very long in June in Northern Europe. So
yeah,
that's
in Tallinn it's almost white nights, like in St. Petersburg. Not exactly, but very close to that. After 11, well, it's not in early June, it's in late June, but the days you are traveling, yeah, I think you can read newspaper on the street at 11:15 p.m.
Thank you. Is it possible to visit Daugavpils? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, or is it included in the trip, or would someone be able to go on their own?
Daugavpils is not on our road. It is possible to arrange a private detour if there is a personal interest. Yeah, the city where Mark Rothko was born. And many other interesting places there. But no, it's too far from our main road in order to go there with the whole group. It's quite a distance. Well, it's more about time to get there rather than it's 200 kilometers, but the roads are relatively small, so it's a longer drive.
Thank you. It came from someone whose family comes from there,
well,
so that's why there was the interest.
I could guess, yeah.
Yes, so the group size, just to repeat, is between 12 to 30 as maximum, so not 50. 30 is going to be the maximum number of people who will join the group. And with 12 people, it can already run, so it will be somewhere in between, most likely, between these two numbers. Okay, so I don't see no more questions, but as I mentioned earlier, of course, we will share all the information. We already put the website in the chat, so if anyone wants to already check out more details about the itinerary or get in touch, you can do it through this link. I'm going to put it one more time just to have it right on the bottom. So if anyone wants to continue just kind of looking into what's coming on this trip, you can do it on this link, but we will share this along with all the other information that I mentioned earlier tomorrow in an email. So I want to thank very much Daniel and Patricia for speaking about the trip, and of course thank you, Daniel, again for the presentation in the first part of our talk. And I'm very happy, and I want to see you all on the screen, and I want to thank all the participants who joined us today. And I hope you learned something new, and I hope that some of you will feel like embarking on this journey with us. So I want to wish you all a very, very nice rest of the day, or good night if you are in that part of the world. And we hope to see you soon. And again, with any questions or thoughts or comments, please feel free to be in touch with us.
Thank you.
And yes, there is a recording of this presentation, and you will receive it tomorrow in our follow-up email. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.